is outside, so it seriously reduces the noise.
Okay, guys, we're
So I
going
got
live.
three little condensers outside my house, and and three mini splits.
We're going live. And
Is
it
that my
is 6 p.m. in Dallas, Texas, and it's time for Triple T number 182. 182 of these. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay,
we're
just
good.
checking. Let's see. I gotta do a quick change about here. Technical issues is what we call it. Yeah, it's always something. There we go. Take two. Best part still at 6 o'clock. Try this again. It's time for Triple T number 182. My name is TJ Zebel. I call myself a professional problem solver, but I always follow that up with, yeah, I don't know everything. In fact, the more I know, the more I realize I don't know as much as I would like to know. That's okay. We are here, and man, I tell you what, it's been a day. I've been working with clients since 9 o'clock this morning, so this should be an interesting evening. I want to say thank you all for showing up, and for those of you on YouTube, I'm on. And actually, also get to say hi, Lenora. Lenora will not be able to join us live tonight. She's on a well deserved vacation and will be watching us from YouTube land. And if you are in YouTube land, please do me all of the favors that don't cost you anything but help the channel out. Click the subscribe, ring the bell, leave some comments, especially if there's something you like, let me know. I'd love hearing it. If there's something that I said that you don't like, go to somebody else's channel and comment on their stuff. Just kidding, kind of. Um, what else? We got a website. I'd love to have you guys check out. Uh, got some more changes that we did, so it's kind of like playing Where's Waldo. If you haven't been there for a while, see if you can notice the changes. If there's anything that you think that could be added, should be added, would be added, I'd love to hear from you. On there, you're going to find a little bit of what I do. I get the privilege of helping people out with all sorts of fun stuff. I help people with depression, anxiety, phobias, grief, PTSD. I offer corporate coaching. I work with athletes from beginner all the way up to pro level. I get still getting a lot of relationship clients, which is good. It very rewarding. We're getting a lot of good feedback on that. So if you know anybody that's having a little challenge in the relationship department, whether they're looking for that special somebody or if they've found somebody but realizing that relationships didn't come with the playbook that you get to open up and access and get the answer immediately, have them get a hold of me. I do offer a free, that's right, no charge, 30-minute consultation. That's our chance to chit chat, see if we're a good fit. If we are, I'll let you know. If we are not, I promise I will also let you know. And I will do my best to find somebody that will be able to help you with whatever challenges you are up against. Time to introduce the tie of the week. Been doing this since January of 24. This one actually is from our tour in China, from a silk factory that we got to tour there. Brought this one back, and it was kind of interesting. Mark and Elijah were talking about dragons earlier before I had my camera on. I was like, did I leave my camera on? But
They were vibing you.
Yeah, they're vibing. Let's see, to give you guys a little insight as to what Triple T is all about, if this is your first time joining us or the first time watching the recording. For the first hour, I've got three topics that I've picked out that I do my best every week to try and get through. Uh, last couple of weeks, it has been a challenge, which is a great challenge. I appreciate that. All of a sudden, time ran out, and I didn't even get to the second one last week. So we'll see if we can knock out three of them. Then the second hour is open mic, open platform. Anybody on the call can ask a question, bring up a topic, and I let anybody on the call answer first because I like to learn as well. And after everybody else has answered, if I feel there's something that I can add, that's when I offer up my two centavos, and that's how that works. But I also like to start off the evening with some good news. Who's got something cool to share after the 7 days that we've been? Michael.
Done a couple podcasts now for Lunch Money Club, so we've got some things rolling. I'm going to look at doing some crowdfunding and things like that. And basically, I did a little thing, and I'm breaking us down a little bit in a good way. We're bringing direct marketing to the masses and making it mainstream,
Very cool.
which is kind of cool. So
And how can people find out about this? Where should they go?
lunchmoneyclub.com, and we're running a special right now. If they look at the membership side, there's a huge discount, and we're waiving processing fees. So it's pretty kind of cool. So lunchmoneyclub.com.
Spread the word. It may not be for you, but I bet you know somebody that could really use it. Mark, you got your hand up.
Yeah, I was just saying, I've been, I like to deconstruct, certain, shall we say, people, whether they be famous or infamous. And I've already done a fair job with Mark Cunningham, who might be known to some in this room. But lately I've been focusing on Andrew Tate and his particular brand. And I had some insights about it that, I would just, it came through the other day. I was like, the fact that he's a primal individual, he's a primal man, and that a lot of his, the way his brand, he's relentless, in his pursuits, but as far as his, again, he says everything in an obnoxious way to stimulate, clicks or whatever. He's become quite famous, and but it's something I was watching yesterday, that his opinion of women, like I said, filtered through what I know is that men tend to be deductive in their reasoning, and as he was talking, I realized that he's a very deductive guy. He gathers facts, and and he doesn't think that the outliers should in society should negate his premises. But he also mentioned that women are very inductive, in there, and I thought that was a great insight. You know, uh, you know, they tend we both sexes tend to use both reasoning styles, but
Yep.
he his so I'm still in the process of deconstructing a lot of his stuff, trying to bring it to the masses, the young men I work with, in a much better way. But he does stimulate those young, uh, you know, um, teenage men with a lot of angst. So that's why I think he's so popular. So I
Very
just thought that was that,
successful.
but that's kind of what I do. I try to deconstruct, see if there's any meat there.
Yeah.
So
Very, very, very successful professional fighter, and got a very good platform to speak from, and he sure likes to speak from it. Anybody else got anything cool they want to share from the last 7 days? Elijah,
Morning.
morning.
How are you?
Very well, thank you.
So I did a session with somebody back in late January. It might even have been early February. I can't remember exactly. And it was to do with allergy relief.
Oh,
And they had, like dust and pollen and that kind of thing irritating them. Not like full-on hay fever, but they said that they would get like blocked nose or sinuses problems and a bit of sneezing and that kind of thing. And we did the session, and I never really heard back. But just this past week, he got in touch and he said, "Dude, I forgot about hay fever season. Like, we went through the whole thing and it's already summer,
yes.
and like the pollen didn't affect me once." And I was like, that's cool, because I didn't have much experience doing the allergy process before that. It was like literally my first crack at it. And so confidence is really high right now. I feel really good about that. And it's always nice to get positive feedback.
That is super cool. Yeah, I had a similar experience where somebody I really cared about was absolutely miserable during allergy season. They'd been taking this pill and that pill and the other thing, and we did a session. And just like you, I'm like, give it a shot. And 3 days later, they called me up and they're like, I forgot to take my pills yesterday and I slept all night. I was like, yes.
I mean, it's I didn't make it up. I did like research it and look it
Yeah,
up and see
yeah.
how the allergy process is and everything, right? But once I kind of had it down and practiced a little bit, it luckily for me, and I'll put it this way, luckily for me, I have excellent clients who follow the instructions well, and
Yeah.
that's why it works, right?
Yep.
That's why it works.
Exactly. And same with me. When I heard about the process for allergies, I was like, wow, that's cool. But like you say, then all of a sudden you've got a client, you're like, okay, let's do it. So very, very proud of you, brother. That's awesome. Very cool. Anybody else got anything they'd like to share from the last 7 days before we jump into the topics? Yes, no, maybe so. All right. Well, topics of the night: expectations, silence, and the princess. And yes, those are three different topics. Expectations. Oh my, what a wonderful world we live in, where one simple thing can cause so much frustration and anxiety and fights and misunderstandings and da 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 da. Expectations. How many have had expectations that were not met? If you're breathing,
Never.
if you are breathing, if you can hear sounds, if you have sight, chances are you have had some expectations that did not exactly get met. And man, oh man, oh man, the reactions that different people have to expectations And as with most of the topics I bring here on Triple T, this, of course, also came from one of my clients who was having a horrible week because of some expectations. And so we went to work on that. And where is it that expectations live? Past, present, or future? You guys have been around Planet TJ long enough.
Present?
Huh?
Present?
No,
I mean, if I expect something, I'm expecting it now.
that's where the expectations get put on trial.
Oh,
Expectations
I'd be
live in the
expecting
future.
well, the thing
Yeah,
the thing that I'm expecting hasn't happened yet, therefore yes. But my expectation is present now within me.
again, it's we build they people build their expectations in the future. This is what I want to happen. This is what it's going to be. This is how it's supposed to this is how it's supposed to feel. This is what it should taste like. And then in the present moment, those expectations get judged. Were they met? Yes, no, kind of, sort of, not. To what degree were they met or not met? Or because sometimes it's not always negative. Sometimes we put our expectations so low into the future that when they show up, we're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. This is way more than I expected. And unfortunately, some people learn that as well. So they learn that if they keep their expectations low, they will be pleasantly surprised more. Unfortunately, that also can become a hindrance because if you're constantly just going, this isn't going to work out, or this is, and you keep shooting, you set the goal so close in front of you that you could literally kneel down and cross the goal line. Where's the challenge? Joshua, you got your hand up.
Yes, sir. More of a question, and this might come from just my few times in the orbit, or the how did you say it in the Triple T orbit? How did you say that?
Planet TJ?
Yeah, Planet TJ. Yeah, I've only done a couple trips around the equator,
Yes.
but I've heard this said as anxiety, like anxiety lives in the future.
Yep.
And so my question is expectations. My first thought was like, I mean, yeah, you could have future expectations, and those would take the form of shoulds, which breed the anxiety. So like for the sake of lexicon, and then present tense expectations could be something as simple as like, it's dinner time around the house, and and it's on me to make dinner this time. There's an expectation that it should be good. Rather than, me just putting my boots in the oven and just hit and go, but my mind first went to expectations of like the past. So what I've seen a lot, and I've been in a conversation lately, and I don't mean to segue, but this came to mind, is that sussing out the difference between, deserving and worthiness. Right. And so like I view like being worthy or having worth is a present tense argument where it's more of a statement of being and of ownership, whereas deserving is more of an entitlement / complacency response. And the reason I bring that up is because expectations from the past. And so like I was yoked behind this for a while, which was that it needs to make sense. Right. Like, or the expectation is that because people, like if I went to religion, right, people would tell me, "Ah, Josh, God has a big plan for you, and he's building you up for this grand future, and he's just got this whole thing." And okay, fine, you can have an argument with that. It just so when the expectation meets reality, it looks like this, right? So when I went and I was in a conversation with my mom, and I made a mention of that, right? As I was like, man, I'm just frustrated. I don't know what to do. This is what people are saying. And my mom, like in one of the few lucid conversations that I've got to have with her, she looked me dead in the eyes and said, "Joshua, I don't want to be alive in the world that God's preparing you for." And so, yeah. And so like the expectations on the past would have been like, okay, I went through this, and then I went through that, and I went through these, and I'm going to overcome it. And then, like so many other people, I'll be able to say, but with the help of my beautiful wife and my family and my, blah, 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 I'll become an overcomer story. Right. And it was upon those wings that I flew off into the military, and then got figured out that what I was flying over was a flak field. So like, it didn't work out that way. But, so that's, I see that, in my case, and I'll use me as the example on that, the past tense expectations is a great way to get yourself yoked to a poor outcome and a poor expectancy as you move into the future, or you inherit your future. But you can have present tense expectations that are like, oh yeah, today's my buddy's birthday. I probably should have got him a card and a gift already. Whoops. Gonna mark that one down for next year. But then you can have that future tense expectation where it's like, I will work hard, and I will do this, and I will have millions of dollars, and I'll be retiring on an island, drinking martinis or whatever it is that people dream about. And then, if you're setting yourself up for the failure of a future that you can't promise yourself, which is all of this is my long form question of basically asking if like we're just using different words to describe the same thing, or
Part of what one of my squirrels brought up is using, a lot of times people will use the past to project their expectations into the future, kind of like an access through the present. So if your past is basically down here, the present is almost in metaphor for me, almost like a prism. You come from low stuff, you hit the prism of present, and it projects out. Now, if you've had a really good high level of life and it hits the prism, it's really easy for you to project expectations into the future that things are going to be good and all the above. If you've been dredging through the swamps your entire past, you look at the future through that prism, you're going to see a lot more swamp. And that's one way of looking at it. The other one is the people that were not ready for the kick in the teeth, like what I went through in 2007, where everything's going good, everybody's making money, and business is good, the economy's good, da da da. And if somebody said, "What are your expectations for the next, where you're going to be in 5 years?" You look through that prism and you go, "Things are going to be awesome." And then life comes along and kicks you square in the forehead. You weren't expecting that based on the past. Now you can still be positive in your thought processes and expect the best. With a lot of people can do that through I'm going to say fantasy level expectations. And then you got the people that know that they've been through enough, they've seen enough, they've seen their expectations get set to a place where they will keep reality in the mix. I mean, you can have some kid that's 4'8" and expect that he's going to be playing basketball with Shaq. Okay, that's a great expectation. Sorry, but chances are, unless you are really blessed, might not happen. Who knows? So we have to, when those expectations meet the present, that's where the big test shows up. We set this level of expectation. We've put all this work into this mini Hallmark movie of how things are supposed to work out for us. That's our expectation. And then the present shows up. Here we are. How do we deal with that? For a certain amount of people, they understand the expectation was nothing more than a pre-written fantasy that may or may not happen. Other people that are easily offended is one group. When expectations aren't met, they go ballistic. It's somebody else's fault. This is not fair. My life is horrible, all the above. And they're the ones that have the biggest challenge when their expectations come to the present judgment stand. And Elijah put in the chat there, anything can happen, but two, you don't need to know what will happen in order to get your outcome. Time's going to pass regardless. And what I teach all my clients and students is my favorite saying: in the quantum of possibilities, best case scenario has just as much probability as worst case scenario. The one you'll see the most is the one that you look for and feed the most energy to. And that's basically an expectation in and of itself. Mark and Elijah both have your hands up. Who wants to go first? Mark.
I'll go. First of all, Lenora just messaged me on Facebook saying that she must be watching and that she misses us all. So I wanted to pass that along. So she must be watching. So everybody wave to Lenora. Thought came to me, expectations, like I said, if you're an optimist or a pessimist, well, first of all, human beings suck at prediction. We can't predict the weather. We can't predict the economy. We're terrible at prediction, but if you're an optimist, again, you're creating positive scenarios that have a very low probability of, happening. And if you're a pessimist, kind of like what you said, is that you can be easily, if you're more pessimistic, you can be, pleasantly surprised. Optimists are constantly disappointed, and pessimists are occasionally surprised, basically, because their expectations are so low. Little story, and then I'll get off. They put this kid who was a pessimist in a room full of toys. And he just sat there. He didn't play with anything. He sat there, and after about 20 minutes, the scientist came in and said, why don't you play with the ball? Why don't you, oh, I might hurt myself. Oh, what about these blocks? Oh, I might fall down. Again, every possible thing he asked the kid, he wanted to play with, the kid would come up to some reason why he, pessimistically wouldn't want to do it. So then they put a kid who was a verified optimist in a room with horse manure halfway to the ceiling. And the kid's running around, he's digging in the horse manure, he's throwing it up in the air. And after about 20 minutes, the scientist came in and said, "What the hell are you doing?" The kid said, "Well, with all this horse manure in here, there's got to be a pony under there somewhere."
Awesome. Elijah.
What did you say? Something about whichever one you feed the most?
The
Something?
one that'll show up the most is the one that you look for and feed the most energy to.
And the one which you can change your own frequency to match.
There. Thank you. Is what great addition. Yes.
Right?
Exactly.
If you can change and elevate your own frequency to match, you see, that's not philosophy, it's physics. Okay? If you match the frequency of the reality, you can only get that reality. If I tune into a radio station, I can only pick up what that radio station is broadcasting. If I change my frequency to another one, I can no longer pick up what the first one was broadcasting. So if I change my frequency to the outcome that I want, then I cannot get anything other than that outcome. And I was going to make a joke about something as well, but I've forgotten it now. So maybe it'll come back to me.
The great example of what you just mentioned, Elijah, is people that wake up in a terrible mood tend to have the rest of the day just, if anything can go wrong, that'll be when it goes wrong.
And that's why you teach people to do their power pose in
Yes,
the morning.
exactly.
You do it in the morning when you're getting ready, because you set yourself up for the whole day. Because of your emotional refractory period,
Yes.
the winning mentality, the positive frame of mind that you're in, is going to cause the filters on your perceptions to seek out things in your environment that will reinforce and re-trigger the state that you are already in.
Yes.
And that's a fact.
Exactly. And another thing that one of my squirrels brought up is when stuff does happen, you don't ask, why is this happening to me?
Because...
Why is it happening for me?
Well, I don't even like that one. I'm sorry. You see, your brain will answer any question that you ask it.
Yep.
It will answer any and every question you ask it. It is a question answering machine. And the moment you say why, X, Y, Z, whatever, it's going to say, oh, he wants a list. It's because you didn't have the right parents, and it's because you went to the wrong school, and it's because, you was an ugly kid, and it's because you had all this acne in the mirror, and you didn't look after your skin, and you didn't eat right, and you didn't, right? Why leads to justification. Just think of it purely from a language point of view. What does the word why mean? You need a justification. If you ask how, that leads to possibility. Where leads to a location. When leads to a time. Who leads to an identity or a person. So if you ask how, rephrase your question and start with how, it will lead to possibility.
Great point. I appreciate that. Yes, absolutely. And Joshua, you got your hand up.
Yes, I wanted to ask, because I know that a lot of y'all come from like kind of the same vector. So a lot of my questions, I mean it more as just trying to line up what I've learned to what I'm hearing now. My understanding was that humans are actually really good at predictions, in the sense that evolutionarily speaking, we are really good at pattern recognition and caution, because those of us back in the day that were very curious tended to get, feed ourselves to the beasts and the machines. So we didn't read as much, but it's pattern recognition that gets us here, and that our defenses are non-polar, meaning that they don't care if it's right, wrong, or indifferent what I'm hearing. What they care is departure from normal. So like in my case, right, speaking of the white wolf, black wolf bit, I'm a little bit different in the sense that I come from almost exclusively black wolf, and I've had to learn how to do any of the white at all. Had to be, how to be seen in the light and all that stuff, fighting and things, my bread and butter. But dang, I forgot what I was going to go with that. Oh yeah, so the non-polar defenses. So for me, experiencing positivity, encouragement, and things like that are more of a shock value to my system, as I'm not used to hearing that. Like the results of a mission completion or something like that were not like, "Hey man, good job." It was just more of, here's your next mission. And so now that I've started coming into more of the mindfulness groups, more of the vibrational community, and things like that, I'm experiencing more of that shakeup that's causing my initial, the encouraging position that I'm being given is very, very far away from my initial position. And so most of my work is the reconciliation of that tensioning, that distance. And so what I was going to offer for what I see a lot of people struggling with is the things that we have said already here, and that they're fighting the stretch from the position that they have to the position that they're going, because human beings are really good at two things: proving themselves right and dying. And so, as we all do that. But if we end up proving ourselves right, that's what we're looking for, that's the polarity of our filter, then what we're going to find is that. So the first time that someone is human, you're like, yep, see, I told you that person was going to make a mistake right there. Like they're no good. Everything, they made a typo. I am unable to can with anything else that they say, or whatever it is. But that's it. That's all I wanted to say on that.
Yeah. And that's the fun part of dealing with humans in their natural environment. And so a lot of times when we're dealing with somebody that decides that somehow we did something, blah, 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 part of the protective empathy that will help us deal with their issue is realizing the power of the word expectations. It's not your fault if they set expectations way up here and you did your best, and heaven forbid you came in under their expectations. That's also why in business, we oftentimes say that it's best to under promise and over provide, over produce. Because it's much better to meet people above their expectations, quote unquote, than it is to fall short of them. Again, realizing that expectations are future pacing. That's all they are. Creating that Hallmark video of how things are going to work out, what they're going to be like. My triple P clients, the relationship clients, part of why I have them commit to not being in a committed relationship for 1 year is learning how to manage new expectations while they're working on themselves. Because they start to realize that as they improve themselves, they have to learn how to reassess and reset expectations along the way. It also comes in play with ABT. Always be testing, always be testing. Testing is a form of, did my expectations get met? To what level? Higher, lower, what I was looking for, all the above. Elijah called it the emotional refractory period. And one metaphor that Dr. David always used for the emotional refractory period, which helps enforce what I said about best case scenario, worst case scenario being what you look for and what you feed energy to. Dr. David always talks about, yeah, when you want to go get another vehicle, but you want it to be unique. You want it to be yours. You want it to be da 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 da. So you've got this list of what you're looking for, and you look and you search and you look and you search, and finally, there it is, the car that you've been looking for. Yes, emotional. Paul Ekman, Emotions Revealed. Great book, great reference book. If you don't have it, get it. But so you finally, after months of searching, you find this car that is exactly unique to what you're looking for. Nobody else has it. And you're driving it home, and you look out front to oncoming traffic, and you look to the lane next to you, and you look in the rearview mirror, and everybody on the planet bought the same car on the same day. They're everywhere. Now, did they really just suddenly ship 85 of the exact same cars like yours to where you're living? No. Those cars were always there. But because of the emotional refractory period, your brain has so much information around it 24/7, 365 that it can only process a small percentage of it. And until you pinpoint certain things that you are looking for, chances are a number of them have already passed by you or been in your peripheral a number of times, but it was filtered out simply because your brain was like, it's just stuff. And it's all just stuff until it isn't, until it means something to you. That's why with my Triple P clients, I have them write a full list of every single detail they can think of that they are looking for in a partner. All the good, all the bad, everything they can think of. And then while they're doing that, they are on a mission of R&D, research and development. Researching humans to see what else they like and they don't like, and then going over that list to see what they can do to develop themselves into the person that kind of person would be attracted to. And lo and behold, a very good majority of my clientele who, as Elijah properly pointed out, followed the directions and do the work, all of a sudden, they meet the best one so far. And they keep improving themselves, and they realize, ooh, this ain't the one, but man, they were the best so far. And then what happens? They meet the next best one so far. Oh my gosh, But they keep working on themselves and working on their list, and they go, they're not the one either, but man, they were the best so far. And then what happens? They finally meet one that is the best so far, that they realize that's the one. We covered this a couple weeks ago on a topic called the ladder. As you climb the steps of the ladder, you start seeing different things and setting new expectations. And yes, Mark, you attract who you are. That's why I call it R&D, research and development, researching humans and developing yourself. Any other, man, we already burned up, we're already almost 1:45, and I got 2 more topics. Any more questions? Yeah, Joshua's like, man, I've only been to a couple of these, but yeah, you're right. That first hour goes by. Any other questions, ahas, epiphanies you'd like to share before we move on to the next topic? Yes, Joshua.
I just wanted to clarify with the emotional refractory period. Is it more closely tied? As I haven't read the book yet, this is the first time I've heard that term. Is it more closely tied to synchronicity or the human mental filtration thing?
Human.
I mean, I guess that's both, but
I would tend to say a little more towards the human filtration system, but it's also closely tied to emotions, because you have an argument with your special friend, somebody, whoever you're close to, and for the next 20 minutes, and another thing, and it doesn't, you breathe too loud. And I saw you staring at the wall for 5 minutes, and what the heck, and oh my goodness, and that time back 27 years ago when you farted, that was the worst thing ever, don't you? And you're like, what, for real? When? What?
oh,
Yes. Mark.
Okay, Joshua, if you want to go into brain physiology, that's the rectangular singular complex, which, points out similarities. It's part of the brain that filters for sameness. So if you want to go into brain physiology, that's where you need to look.
yeah,
Rectangular
man,
singular complex.
complex. Awesome. Thank you.
And Renee, you got your hand up.
So I kind of want to just close this loop that started at the beginning. Expectations are put on trial in the present, but they live in the future. Are the expectations created from past events? Is that kind of where those expectations are born, is based on what you've experienced in the past?
Correct. That's how that's where the past is, where the ingredients are pulled from to write the script for the movie in the future that you're expecting. And they come to trial in the present.
So these people who have fantastical expectations that really don't have any place in reality, where are those born from? Because I'm guessing they're not from past, experiences.
It can still be from past experiences, watching Cinderella,
Oh, okay.
reading a book. Grandma always told me, you can do anything you put your mind to. You can be the queen of the world.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And bless Grandma. I mean, love the grandmas, but there's a few of them that set expectations so high. The other ones, participation trophies. And no one left behind. And nobody gets an F. Unfortunately, some people needed to be left behind, some needed to get the F so that they could be helped with in the department to find what was holding them back, what they were struggling with, or with, again, reality. Elijah, hand up.
Also, like, you're going to get me started on a rant, bro. Also, like, each individual person has their own unique preference in their lead system and their learning style and what they prefer. Okay, so some people are more motivated when you give them an F, and others will go into depression.
Yes.
Right? Some people will just start slacking when you give them an A because they think, oh, well, I'm just going to ace everything now. And others will be like, hey, I need to keep this up and going to keep going. So each individual child or young adult, if they're in college, whatever, right, is going to have their own unique internal preferences of the way they use their brain and their nervous system and how they motivate themselves. Okay, some people are visual learners, some people are auditory learners, some people are kinesthetic learners. And a lot of times, back when I was younger and I was in my school days, right, if you're a kinesthetic learner, some people, you know, they need to kind of get their hands involved and get into it before they can actually figure out how things work. Some kids are like that. And what happens when those kids are told to sit still and stop fidgeting, and you know what I mean, right? And then suddenly, before you know it, they've been judged and put on a spectrum and told that they have a learning disability, when the truth of the matter is you don't know how to teach them.
Yes.
Right? You're
Yes.
gonna get me I get so triggered
I'm
sometimes,
right there
bro.
with you, brother.
Oh my
You
God.
judged a
And
monkey because
today,
he can't swim like a fish.
in today's society, we have so much better understanding of neuroscience and things like that, that we should be changing the schooling system from the ground up. We really should. And it's not happening, and it's kind of upsetting me.
Yes. And to add to it, I took care of college rental houses for 15 years. And I watched the kids that came into college, and the first year in college dropout rate is huge for so many reasons. One, nothing against parents. I understand parenting comes with a ton of instruction books that have nothing to do with who your child is anyway. And secondly, they're like, you're gonna go to college because you gotta go to college, and we're gonna we paid for it, you're gonna go. And they're like, I don't know why I'm here. And then you got the other ones that were the top of their class in a lower level school. And now they get into college with other top of their class kids, and some of them came from high level schools. And now these kids are having a massive identity crisis because they're no longer the sharpest, smartest one in the class. They've never struggled before. Some of them never got a B in their life, and now they're in college and they're dealing with people, and it's not fair. And oh my goodness, I know, dealt with them. Expectations. Woo! That was one of them.
May I?
Yes, Elijah. Yes.
So I'm maybe many of you know this as well. It's quite a well-known experiment, but they did this experiment where they took a teacher of some young kids to one side, and they told them that a few of the kids in the class that they were going to be teaching this year had learning difficulties.
Yes.
Right? Mm-hmm. And by the end of the school year, those 3 kids finished 1 full grade point average below the rest of the class.
Yes.
Okay? At the beginning of the following school year, they took the new school year teacher to one side and told them that these 3 kids are gifted. And you might not be able to tell immediately that they're gifted, because you know how gifted people are. There's sometimes, they work in strange ways that works for them on the inside, but might not be able to tell from the outside. But they are. We've tested them. They're definitely gifted. And at the end of that second school year, those 3 kids finished 1 grade point average above the whole class, which means they jumped 2 grade point averages in 1 year. And it was all down to the way the teacher saw the children and the way they were treating the children.
Yep. 100%. 100%.
My mentor, one of my mentors, says, and is known for saying, that the way you see someone in your mind is the best that they can be in your presence.
Yep.
So if you see the kid as a genius, they're going to behave like a genius. If you see them as a dropout, they're going to behave like a dropout. You are the influencer of everybody around you. So walk around knowing that all these people that you're interacting with are brilliant, because you will lift everyone up around you just by shifting yourself.
And I'm glad you brought that story up, because it reminded me of a story of a guy that he had been struggling through school most of his life. And it was time for SATs. And he did his SAT, and it came back way high. And he was like, what the? And luckily for him, his parents said, we've always told you were smart. You just don't apply yourself. And he went, oh. And from that point on, he accomplished major things, went to college, had, all these things. And it wasn't until like 10 or 15 years later, now he's got a high position in a business and stuff like that. And it came out that somebody had been contesting the results of the SATs. They went back and rechecked them. And he happened to be in the lot that was messed up, and his SAT scores sucked. But it was his belief system. And all it needed was that SAT score that allowed him to know that he was much smarter than he gave himself credit for. And of course, the question came up, well, now that you know what happened back then, how's that going to affect you? And he said, it's going to let me tell people how important their mind is and how important the stories we tell ourselves are, and where to set your expectations properly. I set my expectations so low, and I met them until I found out that I was much smarter than I believed myself to be, and then I rose to that level. So don't misjudge the effect you can have on people.
It is your responsibility to brainwash yourself to be brilliant.
Thank you. Great quote. Absolutely.
Elijah Shake, 25th June 2025.
Yes.
I just made it up.
Recorded.
It really is.
Yes.
Like we've been brainwashed a lot.
Yes.
Okay.
Amen.
Okay, we've been brainwashed to stop at every red light, go on green, all sorts of stuff. Right.
When the bell rings, you stop.
Right. Line up in an orderly fashion, wait for your turn, all that stuff, right? Pay your taxes right around April, whatever. Okay? We've been conditioned, we've been brainwashed. And we know how they did it. So we can use the same method to set ourselves free, if you like.
Amen.
Right? It's actually really simple. A little bit of self-talk. You do it on purpose for a little while, and you catch yourself in the act when you say something negative. Sometimes like I'll hear myself say, "God, I'm so stupid," or something to that effect. But you got to kind of catch yourself in the moment and correct it. And in the beginning, you have to put some conscious effort into doing it. But before you know it, the new thing that you're saying that's much more positive will become your default. And you keep telling your brain that often enough, it will start believing you. And the next thing you know, things will change. And it happens much more quickly than you realize, because your body adapts so freaking fast to everything.
And build a tribe that has permission to call you out when you do say things that aren't in alignment. People that are around me know I will call people out all the time when they say stuff like, "Oh, I'm so stupid," and da 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 da. I'll be like, did you really just say that?" One of my favorite ones is, who else can walk up to you and say that to you? Look at you in the eye and just say that to you. Whoa. Then if you don't want somebody else saying it, please don't say it yourself. Yes, Elijah?
I ask, my version of it is, when did you decide that?
Yes, that's another great one.
When did you decide that? Because you see, the beauty of that question is it takes you from effect and puts you at cause.
Yes.
Because if you decided it, then you're the cause.
Yep.
Right? So it's like, when did you decide that? And they stop and they think like, "Oh, hold on, at what point did I actually start thinking of myself that way?" And the moment they do that, they're in control again. They're not at the effect of the environment, they're the cause.
Yep, 100%. Well,
Sorry, I did ramble a lot during your first hour.
Another week goes by with 2 topics left hanging. That's okay. I love it because that means that we're getting good discussions, we've got good interaction, and I really appreciate that. And I will always bring up 3 just in case we get through one quickly. But now it's time for hour number 2 of Triple T, and if you tuned in late, this is where things change around. It's open mic, open topic. Anybody on the call can bring up a question or a topic, and I let everybody on the call answer first. And after everybody's answered, if I feel that there's something I can add to it, that's when I offer up my 2 centavos. So time for the polite chipmunks to take a break, and let me hear you right away. Who's got a question or a topic to start off hour number 2? And for the people that are watching for the very first time, this is where I call it polite chipmunk. After you. No, after you. No, after you. I didn't want to go first. Joshua, starting off the hour.
I didn't have a question, but I just wanted to do an acknowledgement and thank you for both Mark and Elijah. I know I ask, all my questions and stuff. Sometimes I push back. I think that's a test engineer, but I appreciate you both giving me lots of good information and things to go look up and figure out. And I just want to say I appreciate that. Thank you.
The nice thing about test engineers, do you remember what I said about that kind of stuff last week? I'm not here to tell you how you screwed things up. I'm here to make good things better. But now we got to fill this silence with a question that people can ponder and answer.
How slow can you go and still be happy with the progress that you're making? That's my question for you. How slow can you really go but still be happy with the progress you're making. Because it's something that I do genuinely have a challenge with, is that sometimes I feel like I'm not progressing fast enough towards my goals and my wants and my desires, and I get frustrated, you know? So, anyone.
Michael.
Yes, sir. Can you hear me? Yes, there we go.
Yeah.
I've got a real easy one for that, and I think the Japanese kind of follow suit with that. As I believe it's called Sotogari, or be here now when you're in the present. And as long as you're moving forward and you know that you have your goal there, you don't have to worry about how you're going to get there, but you're making progress gradually because you're breathing, you're working. Any day that you're looking down instead of up is a great day, and you're here, man. Does that help, or is that crazy?
It helps, but it doesn't, you know,
So let me
make me think
ask
like,
ask you this, and let's go a little deeper because everyone's got different levels of what they need as far as being rewarded. So,
Mhm.
what do you need to see or feel that you know you're on the right track daily?
I need to feel or see that the giant pile of stuff is at the very least slowly being moved to the, okay, I've done that and I've done that. It's like there's so many open loops that need closing.
Okay. So now another question for you. This time 10 years ago, where were you in life?
So, okay, I would say, because I'm actually still trying to achieve some of the stuff that I wanted to achieve 10 years ago, and that's what's
Yes.
frustrating. However, there are many other achievements and many other growths that I've had in those 10 years, and I would not trade them for the world.
Okay. So what's the biggest goal you're trying to hit of the ones that you've set 10 years ago that you're still trying to hit? In order of like the first three, what are the top three that you have to hit if you want to share them?
Okay, so my physical health, my body, you know, I would like to be much healthier. That's one.
Okay.
I want to stop working for someone else and be my own boss. That's two.
Okay.
And let's leave it at those two.
Oh, so those two right now, what steps are you doing to get there? Have you started watching
Well,
that?
I've actually been really good. I've actually been really good, but you know, like in terms of like eating healthy and you know moving around a lot more and things like that. But you see, I feel like I'm in therapy.
This is, brother. That's what we do.
Right? It's like
I'm glad you're awake to that.
it's like so as I've started and I you know I was dormant for a while, but I've started eating healthy and I've started walking a lot more and that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
But as I'm doing it, I'm beginning to realize just how much further away I was from my goal than I thought I was, and just how long it's going to take. And that's really kind of it's a little bit upsetting to me, you know.
Yes.
Like
So-
you realize the monolithic task that's before you.
So
Kind of
what
sounds
happens?
like
And guess what?
expectations.
It's not going to get any easier because as we get older, it's kind of like paddling upstream. But if you don't
Right.
start paddling now, you won't be strong enough to get there a little upstream when you get down further down the road. So I mean, you're making progress. So keep doing what you're doing as far as that goes. Now, what about working for somebody else? You're doing trainings, you're doing educations, you're doing stuff.
Yeah, so I do work for myself a little bit, but I
Yeah.
kind of want to seesaw it, you know. Like I have some commitments still, and some there is you know there's always that the safety and the reassurance you have of a regular income working for someone else
Yeah.
versus you know the unpredictability, which you know there's a huge potential there. Like I don't mean to blow my own trumpet, but I'm pretty good at what I do, right? But I still haven't taken that leap to like do it full time without, like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, dude.
it's just kind of always keeping that safety net, you know?
Yeah. So what's it going to take to get you a little bit further away from that safety net?
I honestly, I don't know. I
Okay.
don't know.
So if you did know, what would it look like?
All the right questions. Oops.
It would look like flying.
It would
Did
look
you
like
hear me?
flying.
Flying,
Okay.
flying.
So what do you need to do to get there, bud?
Well, you
Because
got to
only you know.
jump, right? You got to jump off the edge if you want to fly.
It's not
No,
necessarily jump, dude. It's following the process. And so you, nobody plans to fail. They fail to plan. And you, my friend, are an amazing planner. When you go into a session, when you come into a call, when you're doing anything, your brain is moving so fast and you're angling your angles. You know where you're going to go 10 steps before anyone else does.
but I do that in the moment, right? I don't actually
Yeah.
plan ahead of time.
But you do, dude.
I
It's just your
like
brain
like
goes so
I
fast.
like I taught Zoom classes for like 2.5 years,
Yeah.
week in, week out, and I had a rough idea what I was going to talk about in the class, but I never really had like a plan,
Yeah.
right? And sometimes, like the longest class I did went for like 22 hours. Like people wouldn't leave, and I just kept teaching,
Yeah.
you know. And so, and it you feed off what the audience gives you, right? The questions and things like that. Like if I have to prepare like a webinar where it's just me talking about a topic, that's much more difficult than me saying one or two things and somebody else then chimes in with their 2 cents, and then I can bounce off of that, and it makes the whole thing much more interesting and much more educational, I think, for everyone. That's a format I prefer, like,
So when
hands
when
down.
you when you look at that format, it's not just your brain that's connected. You're actually connected. We're spiritual beings, right? So you're connected in all the way down. So you're just channeling the energy. So you already know where you're going.
I know where I'm going.
Yeah.
I'm just a little bit stagnant, or at least that's how it feels.
That's how it feels.
That's
All right. Well,
okay.
I'm gonna let TJ and Mark and
I know TJ's like, let me at him, let me
Oh
at
no,
him.
I was just gonna say I've been self-employed since I was 8, and then working for other people, and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And Elijah, I know exactly what that safety net is like, because
It's not so much for me,
it
right?
could be
Like
enemy.
I'll be okay.
Yep,
Like I can deal with the uncertainty.
yep,
But you have responsibilities and contributions to make. I have parents, and they're getting on a bit, and one of them's like multiple heart attacks and a stroke, and you need special care, and like you need like, or at least I feel like there's certain minimum amount of stability that is required, right?
yes,
Just so nobody worries,
yes.
you know.
That
well,
right
Like
there.
I can handle the worry if it's just me,
but
right?
Elijah,
I'm
what is
okay
the
with
worry
that.
though?
Excuse me.
What is the worry? Worry is misuse of your imagination. You know what you can do. You know as everything you can do Zumba, you can do trainings, you can do coaching, you can do all of these things. You know that if you apply yourself, you're going to bring in X amount of dollars minimum. You'll bring in this much. No matter what. If the whole world went to pot, you still could do this. And you know that this is your glass ceiling. You're going to hit this level no matter what you do. Come rain or fall, you'll hit that number, and you do that consistently month after month after month. The goal is to get a little higher. And you got to get out of your comfort zone to do that, but you can't be worrying about it. That's misuse of your imagination.
It's crazy being on the other side of it.
Because you're
When you're being
amazing.
coached, it's so good.
But you're amazing. You really are. You're an inspiration to everybody in this room. Everyone looks at you like, dude, that guy's got it
God bless you,
together.
bro. God
And
bless you
all
for
the people
saying that.
watching this, truly. So, Mark, dig in. But Elijah, we love you, man. You're amazing.
Thank you.
Well, to build on what Michael said, again, I
Hit
would
me.
ask you a question in response to your question.
Okay.
What's more important, Elijah, direction or speed?
Direction.
There you go.
Always.
Yes.
You know, and
Always.
to build on something TJ keeps saying is, yeah, you know, it's nice to be in a comfort zone, but nothing grows in a comfort zone. But the other thing I was thinking about was earlier you flashed your room and, you know, the things that you've already accomplished, you know, they don't, and believe me, I get, you know, the vibe is that you're a very powerful practitioner and we all benefit from your wisdom. But, you know, but when you look back on, you know, my brain, you know, the squirrel whispered, he's a big game hunter. But he looks around his room and he sees the boar and he sees the deer and he's got that spot picked out for the you know the bear or the lion head. He just hasn't bagged his prey yet. Okay. And you know, but you are a big game hunter, you know, but the game's gotten bigger, you know, the challenge has gotten bigger, you know. I mean, I took 3 times to get it right starting my private practice. You know, I had to change who I was and what my expectations were to actually make it a success. You know, but when you're on that golden path, like I said, you just again you're going after the next, you know, the next trophy for your wall. But when you look around your wall, you've got all kinds of trophies. You've done podcasts, you've done, you know, you help people when you are helping others, you're indomitable.
Oh, I
You got to
love
use
it,
that
dude.
for yourself.
It's like
So
my
you got to
favorite
use that
thing.
for yourself. Okay. You know, you're relentless and you're indomitable when you're helping others. Well, you got to do a little bit but a little bit of that for yourself. My squirrels will like. That's just some of the scrolls. I was buried in scrolls, TJ, as Michael was talking. So I'll shut up now and let this
Joshua.
All right. Well, Elijah, data point of one. I don't come from the modalities and the practices that you guys do, but the first time you opened your mouth a couple of weeks ago, I could feel like clearly right through to the core of your being. Like who you are comes out of your mouth very clearly. And you know, so I don't know what you're going through. All I would offer at this point is just you know my own anecdotes, if that's all right, and the
Please.
things that I'm currently doing. Okay. So one, I want to affirm you in that is practicing something as little as 18 minutes a day for an entire year. You're better than 90-something% of all the people in it. So the question is finding out the one or two things. And like I said, I don't know your story. I don't know exactly what you're going through. So I don't want to solve it. I just want to offer those things. But if you can generate the list of all the open cycles that you have, and I'm gonna be completely candid with my own flavor of communication, but you build that list and you murder the shit out of every line on there that doesn't align with what will get you to the next thing. And so like, you know, so for example, me as a test engineer, my brain wants to go 1,000 miles an hour. And I mean, I come from electrical, nuclear, all kinds of that background. And so I would get into groups. I would want to not overrun them with intention, but overrun them with questions because I really want to know, I want to understand, I want to break things down, optimize, efficientize, all those kinds of things. And I am currently in the epoch of my life that I refer to as the burn down. So you can see around my space, I live in a 26-foot tiny house. And about what you can see in that field of view is almost everything that I own. I either donated or lit on fire everything else. And so I'm, you know, in radical to that is basically trying to identify what it sounds to me like you were dealing with, which is what are the things that are consuming my energy. And so it might have been, for me, it would have been projects like artistic projects that I was doing. I used to vent a lot of my frustration into Minecraft, for example. And I was building this gigantic cathedral all in survival mode. And, you know, and it was like doing all these 3D art projects in there and all this other kind of stuff. And I've been building on that thing for probably 15 years. And I was like, man, I really need to finish that thing. And then, you know, so I'd wake up or something and it's like, I got a list of things I should probably do. And then I'm like, oh, but I had this idea. And then I'd start doing that. right? And then I would start doing that would lead into another thing, or like, I'd blink and it's like 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, well, damn. So I, basically just had to kind of sit with it. And so this is what I was going to say is like strategic grieving. And so one of the things that I learned in the military is that, and this is to practice, might sound terrible, and I'm sorry, but it's to practice dealing with bad news in a bad situation. And so one of the things that I learned is when I was speaking with I use my word loved ones very loosely, but when I was speaking with them, at the end of the conversation, when it's like, all right, talk to you later, bye. As soon as I hang up that phone, I immediately pretend that they died horrifically. And I just kept going through it. And what it taught me to do was sever the connection, right? So that if I was in the middle of a bad situation, bad news didn't destabilize me even more. And that's again more extreme. I don't recommend that, but the way I've learned to use it in my current time is as I'm going through and getting rid of things, you got those things that have the emotional attachments. It's like, oh, that reminded me of this trip, or but I could still use that. And then what I started doing was bringing in the thought of like, what if this, like that feeling that I have when I look at that and I'm like, oh, and it lights me up a little bit. And I'm like, what if I could give that to another person I don't even know through this thing? And that was one of the ways, that it allowed me to let go of things, right? Like the things where I could use them, or, it's like that. I could be giving out someone else's nostalgia, right? Through a thing. Right. And so the template that I used to answer the other questions, like the rigors of life, was Maslow's hierarchical pyramid of human needs. And I'm probably not about to say anything that anybody doesn't know there. But if the question is, the question for me was, how do I get myself free? Because I would look at the top and I'd see transcendentalism, this idea of helping others, coaching or whatever. And I've got some ideas and views about like the in-between steps and where like average guy and average gal sit on that thing and whatever. But I've been forced to be level 1 for most of my life. And so I like when I go to like, why don't I start a coaching business? Well, I don't know enough, right? Well, okay, knowing enough is like tier 4, right? I don't belong anywhere. Well, that's tier 3. Like, well, I don't feel safe. That's tier 2. And I've been like, but I can't afford it. Well, that's tier 1, right? So I might have this dream where I need to help somebody, but like from a troubleshooting perspective as a test engineer, if you look at the entire system and all the complex moving parts that are part of the design, which I believe that your mind is articulate enough that that's exactly what you're seeing, is this whole machine, but it just no worky, and you're like, I'm not sure where the no worky happens. And then but what I'm suggesting is using Maslow's hierarchical pyramid to draw boxes around the different like parts of it, right? So this is the combustion chamber. This is the fuel system. This is indicating an alarm. So, and you draw boxes around it and then you solve those boxes. So for me, it was, income. I couldn't afford to do all the things. I can't afford the coaching was my constant excuse. I haven't had mentors, so I had to kind of become my own mentor in that way. And so I let go of a bunch of stuff. I created an incredible margin in my life, and I took that margin and I started investing, and I developed a passive income, which would blow people's minds. And so I solved that problem that way. And then now I'm moving up to address my security needs. And the way that I've done this and belongingness and knowledge is to embrace boredom. And so I challenge like to ask yourself, because basically boredom is a deflection response to something that is bothering you, right? And so what happens is you got this pee in the mattress, which is when people ask me, Josh, what do you want in life? That's the thing I don't know comes up for me, right? But in this case, as the seed gets, or the spike gets driven into your being, right? Your everything you are forms a cyst around it. And then if you look at the skin of that cyst and you like able to meditate and get real quiet and you put like kind of get your ear close to it, you're going to hear, I'm bored. And then when that happens, like you're going to deflect into a bunch of other things. And it might be chronic over busyness. It might be like massive articulation. It might be overcomplicating the problem. It could be any number of those things. But if you can get to the place where you can quietly hear, I'm bored, and then ask, okay, and what's behind, that curtain? And so in my life now, I have made it so that, again, tiny house. I only have a few things. I had to get rid of a lot of my stuff. And then I'm like, I spend a lot of time, frustrated and irritated. And I'm like, oh man, this is really good. Okay, sit in it. Like, what am I hearing right now when I get real quiet? And, and I've started to address those things, and some of those things were coming out. Like I'm hiding in the work, right? So one of the things that I figured out was that I would chase modalities and I would try to find people who could offer me solutions, because if I was working, then I'm improving. But what I'm doing is hiding in it, right? So I could come, like, be part of your program and you would think I was one of your best students, but I'm hiding from myself in that position. And it took me getting real bored to find out that my defenses are sneaky as shit. And like, and so I would offer that. But finally, the next part of what I've been doing is what I call burn the boats. And so I've been severing a lot of the connections that I would rely on, right? So one of the things that I ended up doing about a year ago is I went over to Europe for 2.5 months, and then was just traveling around and basically doing a fly by the seat of my pants. Had a plan, but our person with the plan, that turned into a whole thing, and I disinvited them from the trip. And then me and my buddy he was like, Josh, what are we going to do? And this is when I discovered the secret, for me, when he said that, because he was like, we're in a foreign country. We don't know anything that's going on. We don't speak any of the languages. Like, what are we going to do? And I just looked at him and I said, anywhere that I choose to stand is the safest place on this planet. And I have no idea why I said that, but when it came out of my mouth, I discovered something in myself, which was this, like, yes, keep putting myself in that position, because then when the wolves of doubt start baying on the horizon, I'm like, I don't, y'all coming over here, I know what's going to happen to y'all. But like, I keep practicing these like crazy situations, like, run out of gas, and I'm like, well, this happened and this is what I got right now. Or like, whatever, like crazy things going sideways. And so, I practice the burning of the boats, even if it's, I need to slap this cup of coffee off of my nightstand and, and just look at it spilling all over the floor and be like, yep, I did that. But then I also know I can restore myself from the process by taking actions. And so all of those things are how I've slowed myself down so that I can take stock of the situation and also look at the things like, can I be happy about that? Because I'm not jumping from objective to objective to objective. I can actually stop and sort of like taste the soup I've been cooking.
Right. I don't know if you can tell, I'm like really leaning forward listening to you right now. It's crazy. Thank you.
You're welcome. Also, I don't know if it's upon me to suggest something like this, but the development of passive income is something that I like to do. So if that's at all curious, like, let's have a dialogue, because I'm all about it, and freeing my people so we could all go outside and play. That's what I want.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Renee, got your hand up.
Mine's really short, but when Elijah, you were talking about your goals and you're always comparing yourself to that point that you see in the future, I completely felt where you were at, like, because that's how I used to be, so goal oriented. And then I was always comparing myself. This is my goal. This is where I am today. This is my goal. This is where I was a week ago. It's always this, how far am I away? I took goals out for these big ticket items, and I just started thinking of things like systems. What system am I putting in place, and how can I streamline it? How can I make it even better? So you're not looking at that point in the distance that you're just figuring out how to streamline, how to make the most efficient craft to get yourself to that point. And I noticed when I do that, a lot of times I hit my goal and I shot past it and I didn't even notice, because it was all about putting a really good system in place. But it wasn't, as you have a system that you like, you're constantly improving upon it. You're making it a little bit better every day, and you gain speed, and all of a sudden you're past it. Because I've noticed, especially in the past, I would self-sabotage myself a lot of times when I had goals. Because then once I hit my goal, now what do I do? All I've done is spent like years trying to get to this point, and it was kind of like falling off a cliff. well, now I got to find another goal just as big as the goal I had before because I just hit it. Where the second I turn it into a system of getting towards it, then it just kind of falls into place. So,
That sounds to me like learning to
Thank you.
enjoy the journey
yeah.
instead of focused on the destination.
You guys are awesome. Thank you. I know I only ask like 3 questions a year, but thank you.
Well, you are part of the tribe, brother.
I
Always will be.
appreciate it. I really do.
Anybody else got anything for Elijah, or is it time for another question or another topic? Mark.
I'm just surprised again, that, usually, put the bow and the wrapping on after we've had, talked. I was just wondering what your squirrels were talking about while the rest of us were.
Me?
Yeah, just at the end there, usually like to come in and sum up and put a bow on it.
Well,
But I do have a question. The question is, and it's a technical question for the hypnotists. Is I'm adequate enough to, use hypnosis as a tool, but his client wants me to hypnotize him for weight loss. And the only thing after, stewing on it for more than a week, was to do, create the safe place, go from the safe place to the gray room, go from the gray room to the gallery. And I'm thinking there's got to be a quicker and dirtier way to, to do it than, I just would like to get some suggestions how to streamline. I know how to, do the basic element induction and to create the safe place, but I'd like suggestions on where to go from there, to help this individual, with his, get with his weight loss goals.
great question. Joshua, you got your hand up.
Yes, at the risk of not knowing anything about the hypnosis side, because I don't come from that place. What I would offer was 2 points, and the first is maybe their sugar addiction. Attack that, because most people, sugar is 1,000 times more addictive than cocaine, and it's in freaking everything. Like, I was shopping the other day and saw that 4 grams of sugar in a can of green beans. Wow, why? But sugar, but like the way people lose weight, like functionally speaking, is a process through the liver, as far as I know. And like, and I don't know. I mean, I haven't worked out since 2003, so I think I'm doing all right. But a lot of people end up consuming a lot of sugar, and it teaches your liver to go for that quick energy instead of to burn fat. And so if they're concerned with that, I don't know what their phenotype is. I would start there. Second is that, and this applies to me, the modality I came out of is core energetics. And so if any of you are familiar with the Hands of Light book by Barbara Brennan, that coming from like Freudian stuff originally, they talk about 5 different defensive schemas, and our bodies adapt to whatever we're defending against. And so typically if someone is overweight, more often than not, they fall within what is known as the masochistic pattern, or as getting away from the Freudian side of things, the enduring pattern. An enduring pattern, physiology has more to do with the inability to set boundaries. And so like, for example, and basically the way that they say it is that the body puts on the weight to protect the exposed core, because somewhere in their system they believe that they can't put a boundary down. And so I don't know if there's anything in the hypnosis like you could touch on to help them with that. But the healing response in those, this is the thing that I've done for myself. The healing response for that is choice and freedom. And so figure out where they're not choosing or unable to exercise their choice, or they are unable to feel free, and start there.
Yeah. He's done keto, he was a power lifter, um, but I don't, my spider sense tells me that the extra weight, it's over 300 now, is not body armor. Okay. Doesn't seem to be protecting a core of hurt. I don't know, like I said, but, like I said, I want to help him, but, I need a few tips, what to do in the trance to, something that I can, positively, suggestion to implant or whatever. So that's where I need. But thank you for your input. Like I said, that's where and he just had to put down his dog today, so that's
okay.
another thing we're gonna have to deal with. So
So a couple things, if I may go next. I don't see any hands raised. That's why. Firstly, I'd want to know what's important about losing weight,
There.
right? What's important about it? Okay, like why? Because it's also just as easily possible to become happy with the way you are, right? And so, if you were able to be happy, hi Fran, if you were able to be happy with the way you are, then you wouldn't need to lose weight. Okay. Secondly, I also went to the body armor thing, in generally speaking, if it's more than sort of 20, 30 pounds, it's probably some kind of emotional thing and not just, bad habits, right? But if you say it's not, then okay. There is only really one way to drop pounds in this life, and that is to eat better or less and to move more, right? It's the only way. Okay, you cannot trance your way to a healthier body. What you can do, what the trance is for, and you need to explain this to the guy or the girl, right? What the trance can do is help with being consistent in eating better and moving more.
Yes.
Or eating less and moving more. That's the purpose of the hypnosis, is to make it easier to stick to, right? From an NLP point of view, if he has certain, addictions, like whether it's Coca-Cola or donuts or whatever it is, if you find out where they are spatially in his
Peripheral.
in his bubble, in his sort of energy surrounding spatial bubble around him, I bet you'll find that all of his things that are bad habit foods are within arm's reach.
Yes. Yep.
Okay? And if they're within arm's reach, then even if you have none of them in the house, it's not a chore to go to the store and get them, because mentally they're in arm's reach. So you need to take that Coca-Cola or that donut and you need to push it further and further away so it's no longer in arm's reach. Put a mountain in the way, put a building in the way, put some other thing in the way, so it becomes hard to get to, right? In his spatial coding, right? And so if it's harder to get to, because people can generally, through willpower, go to the store and not buy the junk when they're doing their weekly shop, right? But then it's easy for them to go and get it because it's still in arm's reach, right? When they run out of willpower. But if you put it in a place where it's like, if you physically move it spatially, into a place where it's hard to get to, then they'll find it difficult to go to the store and cheat midway through the week. So that's another tip. But generally, I would want to know what's important about losing weight, what's the real motivation behind it, and really leverage that,
Thank you.
Good old, go ahead, Fran.
Sorry, butting in. The other thing about losing weight or a lot of weight is that it actually can change who you are and change your relationships. So it's important to work, if you're in particularly a permanent relationship, it's really important to see if you can bring your partner along with you in these changes that you're making, because the outside changes the inside and the inside changes the outside. It's the way it works. If you need, in a dedicated relationship, I've seen many times people drastically change their body shape and change who they are, and it doesn't fit the partner they're with anymore. So make sure you bring them along for the ride if you possibly can.
Great answer. Another one that came up, yes, definitely what Elijah brought up, values and criteria. What's important about, but another thing I've dealt with a number of clients working with this as well. I make oh yeah, there you go. Lenora's got some good stuff in a book you might want to recommend. And I tell my clients a couple of different things. One, get rid of the scale and use the mirror. What do you want your body to look like regardless of the weight? Because too many people don't realize the size difference between a pound of muscle and a pound of fat. And I've had a number of my clients get really depressed when they work their ever-living butt off, and I've only lost 2 pounds. And I'm like, well, how do your pants fit? Well, they're loose. Yes. The other thing is I tell my clients, get rid of the word diet. It is the word die camouflaged with the letter T. Make it a lifestyle change. You're going to learn how to eat better. You're going to learn how to move your body better. You're going to learn how to sculpt your body to look a certain way. And it's not going to be on this fad diet or this fad diet, and a lot of my clients that do the yo-yo weight, if I ask them if their weight has done the yo-yo treatment before, I always ask them, have you tried diets? Oh, I tried this diet, I tried that one. Yes, because you tried a diet. You tried a diet. And then if you reached your goal, you went, oh, finally reached my goal. And it wasn't a lifestyle change, it was a diet. And then the weight came back on. The other one, when you asked for hypnotic protocols, one that I use is the hologram deck. And I will have my clients go into the hologram deck and pull up their avatar and look at the 3D rendering of their avatar and what is their true body shape and size that's inside of the shell that they are living in right now. And how much of that excess can be removed when they can see the person that's hidden inside of that mass. Joshua, you got your hand up?
Yes, sir. I think this harkens back to what Ms. Renee had said, which is what system can I put into place? And that's, because like diets and stuff like that, they only work as long as you do them. But like, if you attract what you are, or you become what you are, kind of a thing, that it's the small adjustments that are going to make them the success. But I wanted to add, because and one, Mark, I'm sorry, like I don't have like the hypnosis things to add, because I don't know them. I'm not going to pretend like I do. But I will say, from a weight perspective, right now I'm 5'10" and I'm 220 pounds. And, and everybody, like, I've got a 34-inch waist, but like people look at me and they're like, you're a solid 180, right? And that's what they say. And if I go to the doctor's office and stuff, when they do their height, weight and stuff, I am technically, by their standards, morbidly obese at nearly 40% body fat.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. And so, but while I think most everybody would agree that like BMI is a crap index, like, on the same, but what people don't associate it with is the conversation that we have with each other about it. Right. So when people are talking about I need to lose weight and stuff, I think they very much underestimate the effect of muscle on the human body. And if he was coming from the weight background, one of the questions that I would have as a functional is, what was his creatine intake? Because what I've seen happen a lot in the military is you get a lot of guys that get like the creatine supplements, and it pulls a lot of water to all their muscles. So they get that like really big jacked look. But if they stop working out for 3 months, they're just a big bowl of jelly. So if he's got the creatine supplements and stuff like that, that'd be the first thing I recommend he get rid of. And he would swap over to, from a workout modality to like a high rep or a slow movement, like kind of modality, where he converts a lot of his muscles into those stringier muscles. Because if you do that, just by virtue of having those like semi-tight muscles all the time, they burn energy by existing. And so that'll help burn the fat above it, as just like a thing that he does while he's doing the other things. And also protects the joints and, and all the little muscle groups, like, anyway, that's a whole different conversation, but just wanted to add my 2 cents there.
Awesome. Holly.
First of all, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Good. So I'm gonna have a question. So my first thought whenever I'm dealing with a weight loss situation, and the word loss already is a problem, but is you can either weight loss is the symptom, and you can either treat the symptom directly or you can treat the cause. And we've already kind of discussed, like a very common one is it's body armor. I'd say the second most common is there's an underlying medical issue. So Mark, my first question is, your gut is saying it probably isn't a body armor issue. Is your gut saying what it might be?
Sedentary lifestyle. He operates heavy equipment, so he doesn't move around a lot. He doesn't need to move around a lot. And isolation. I gave him, various pieces of, PPP, and he was successful, but then he hasn't been doing any, socialization. Again, he's caring for a dog that he had to put down today. So, like I said, I'm, like I said, I'm not stymied here. I'm just trying to, get some suggestions, but my gut's telling me that, that he's got, if he were, more social, less isolated, and, he needs what Joshua said, he needs to take action, whatever that action is.
Yes.
I think he needs to take action, whatever, and focus on, what TJ was saying about, again, diet and lifestyle. These things need to change. If he's going to change, his mindset, well, then, hopefully he'll, be able to change his body shape.
Well, and coming from somebody who grew up in a truck driving family and had been around construction a lot, yes, those industries, if you're not committed to moving your body at the end when workday is over, that's a very dangerous industry for body form and health issues. I know, because I've got family and lots of friends that are truck drivers, and 8, 9 hours a day. It's this sitting, bouncy, bouncy, bouncy on a chair, back problems, drinking stuff they shouldn't be drinking, and snacking on stuff they shouldn't be snacking, and then a couple of cigarettes because you're just sitting there, you got nothing to do, isolation, all the above. And then when they do pull off somewhere, especially like for truck drivers and stuff like that, it's 0 to 100. You got to help unload. You got to move this. You got to pull tarps. You got to yank straps. You got to roll this up, and you're doing all of this work. No, I don't know many of them that are trained enough to warm up, get out of the truck, do some stretches, and they're like, "Ah, I look dumb." I'm like, "Yeah, but you'll be healthier."
And
Just saying. Go ahead, Fran.
can I butt in with
Yes, no, please.
reminding everybody what a privilege having this meat suit is, whatever shape, whatever size, that you can move it around if you choose. You guys, or some of you know that I'm an emergency volunteer worker, and we deal with road crash trauma and so on. And when in a small town, you meet people in crashes who you know.
Yes.
And the privilege, it really brings home the privilege of having a meat suit to walk around in and moving around. Yes, that is the key thing. And whatever shape you are, whatever size you are, it's a huge privilege to be here.
Yes.
Enjoy it and to change your focus back to the value of that. Sometimes you need a bit of a shock in the system to help you remember. Thanks.
And as soon as you said that, Fran, there's a comedian, and I can't think of his name right now, but he was talking about he's challenged and competing in Special Olympics, and he was talking about one of the things, and he goes, "Now, just remember, we're one of the special groups that all of you are one accident away from qualifying to join." And that hit home. I was like, "Yep, you're right." I think his name, I think he goes by Josh Blue or something like that. But yeah, you can watch Special Olympics, but just understand you are one accident away from being qualified to play with us. Holly.
Okay, so now that we've got a little bit more context, I think a few things I would recommend. First of all, I would ask him to has he had all of the screenings to rule out any medical issue contributing to it as a factor? So, has he had his thyroid checked? Has he, had his adrenal levels checked? All of those things that we've been talking about, several of the things have already been mentioned. I think attacking it, and all of these things are great. Another thing that keeps coming to my mind is this a mindset issue or a skill set issue? Because a skill set issue may not even need trance to address it. So, does he fully understand nutrition? Does he fully understand, different kinds of exercises? Because sometimes people will say, I want to exercise, but I get in the gym and I don't know techniques. I don't know what exercises would be the best to where to start. But also impacting the isolation thing. I know that for me, there was a period of my life where I had a gym buddy, somebody that I enjoyed hanging out with, that was committed to getting me to the gym and working out with me. And I've never worked out better in my life. We also cook meals together. I've never eaten better in my life. Once again, it could be how can we help you build a better tribe so that you have lots of people you could turn to invite to go to the gym with you. You've got lots of people that you could invite to come over to your house and cook. And then one of the things I'd check is see, okay, does this light him up or does this overwhelm and stress him? And then that could be a place where we say, okay, is this something you want to do, or do we need to go into hypnosis and figure out why is this stressing you? Do we need to go in and figure out why is there no motivation? And then one other thing, of course, is I was told when you're building new habits, one of the best things you can do is latch it on to a habit you had previously. And so you say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to come home and I'm going to eat dinner and I'm going to feed the cats. And then I'm, like find something tangible you could do. You could say, and then this is where, and then make it really, really small. So instead of saying, this is where I'm going to go to the gym and exercise, say, this is where I'm going to put on my gym shoes. Because, if you make it too many big steps, it can get too overwhelming. But you say, can I put my gym shoes on when I'm done feeding the cats? And then once I put on my gym shoes, it's that tiny little aspect. Now it's a lot easier to get to the gym. Now it's a lot easier to do all the follow-up steps. And you could even say, the first 3 days, you're not even going to go to the gym. You're just going to practice putting on your gym shoes. And then just another thing is just when you're building a habit, it's okay to miss one day as long as you never miss 2 days in a row. And if you start with the smallest thing, it's okay to miss a couple days. And then once you build the habit, if you've done it now, different numbers have said different things, but the science I've said is that if you do 271 days in a row, never missing 2 days in a row, it will become such a wired in habit you won't need to do anything else. So if you wanted to practice that in trance, have them practice 271 reps in trance. So anyway, just a few thoughts.
Great answers, Holly. And another thing, you don't even really need a gym. I know. I've been working out. It's funny when you see some of these people that have created gyms in third world countries where they're finding a piece of a tree and 2 blocks or tires, or they're just moving and lifting and doing stuff. And I'm trying to remember who it was that said they started a habit. They knew that they had to use the bathroom every day and decided that after they used the bathroom, they were going to do push-ups. Got done with the bathroom, now it's time for push-ups. And they started out with 2 push-ups and worked their way up to 100 push-ups.
Or squat when you squat.
Yes, exactly. I'm like, hey, if that works, I mean, and you could even do how many squats before you have to dedicate yourself to the pot? I don't know, just
Squatty potty.
yes, right? But if it works, it works. I'm not going to criticize anybody that can come up with it. As soon as he said, every time I use the bathroom, I do push-ups, I'm like, that is awesome. Awesome. Joshua.
Oh, that's so good. Ms. Fran, thank you for the squats. I was actually just writing that down because, right now with the distal tendon rupture, push-ups are not a thing I should be doing right now.
Yeah.
But, well, no one's the boss of me, not even the universe, so screw all that. But anyway, I did want to, tie it all together, Elijah, because it's a good example for you and I too with this situation with Mr. Mark is to remember practicing radical acceptance, right? Because we labor under these expectations, and that's what it is. And so using the acceptance component, nobody likes to work with a boss that's like hitting them in the back of the head with a ruler the entire time, and that's you. Right. So it's like, I got to lose this weight, but people put this incredible pressure on themselves. That gets back to what I was saying too about the armoring, but they'll put themselves under this expectation, like they should be doing it. But like, what's the system right in place? What system should we be putting into place to achieve a goal rather than, well, the doctor said I should be healthy, but like, what does that even mean? Right. Like we don't know. So acceptance is the best way to get there because it's like someone that you really cherish, you really love them. Is that how you tell them to work out? And I had, like, as an example, I had a swing dance instructor who was really crappy to me. And I asked her one time, because she was just being, at a certain level, I guess they just kind of get like that. But I asked her, I was like, hey, do you want to learn martial arts like you're teaching me how to swing dance? And we had the great reset, because the human laundry folding problem. But no, that's awesome. Every time I use the bathroom, I'll do squats, which I did want to say too, because Elijah, to eat my own words, when I did the like the board thing, the board exercise, that's what I found. Every time I was like, I need to go to the bathroom, right? And that's kind of what drew me to it, because it was like pee like 20 times a day, and I'm like, dude, this is ridiculous. What is going on? And then as I did the gliding exercises, I realized as soon as I hit that I'm bored, it was like, yep, go to the bathroom. And I was like, oh, I see you there. And now I have something to combat it with, and be like, hey, you like doing squats, right? Because we're going to do a lot of them. Body's going to be like, no, no mercy, no mercy.
And one of my clients was complaining that, oh, this, oh, that, aged knees, blah, blah, blah. And I said, then look up work chair workout. And it's designed for people that have to sit in cubicles all day long. And it gives them workouts that they can do with their legs while they're still sitting in the cubicle and working out and do it. Isometrics, yes. Well, I said, we have come up with so many ways, inventive ways to move the body. Your excuses are up against a huge arsenal. And it's 8 o'clock, so I don't want to leave you guys hanging. Michael and Fran, I'm not gonna cut you off. So real quick, what do you got? Michael.
All right, I got three quick things. First of all, to Holly, verbiage is everything. So she was saying, I want to lose weight. I want to lose weight. If you look at the word want, that's asking without fulfillment. So if you shift that word into I desire to lose weight, I desire to be healthier, I desire, because then you're not wanting, you're actually desiring, which means you will get it. Number two, to Josh. Josh, I sent you a private message. I've got to pick your brain a little bit. So take a look at that. I gave you my cell phone and an email. So hit me up on that. And then this is also to Josh. I used to teach two-step and swing back in the day. And some folks wouldn't have rhythm if you hit them on the head with a hammer.
Yes.
That's it. Appreciate you guys. Fran, I love you. You're always beautiful. And it's just, you highlight the whole call when you pop up.
Yes.
Just saying.
Thank you so much. I've got 3 very quick points. You don't need a gym. You can use your own body weight. There are books and programs that just everyday furniture, your own body weight is enough to get you fit. If you break your habit for more than a couple of days, it's just a proof that you've already done it, so you can do it again. Don't let breaking your habit stop you. It's okay. Just do it again. And the other one was do what you love. Anything that's moving, that's what you love, just do it and enjoy it so that it's pleasurable. That's mine. Thank you.
And I'm so glad you brought that up, because I tell a lot of people, be mindful of the movements you're already doing and pay attention to them. Like I work with a lot of athletes in high school and college. And I'm like, okay, so when you're not in the gym or out on the field, what are you doing to work out? And they're like, I'm like, do you have a job? Well, yeah, I work at the grocery store and I got to go grab the carts. I said, okay, and when you grab the carts, are you mindlessly just putting them in line and pushing them? Or are you taking the time to turn that operation into another gym workout? Because you can go there and you can have your protein shake before you get to work. You can have the same stuff you do before you head to the gym. And when you go to walk out into the parking lot, walk with intention. What body muscle parts am I using? When I'm pushing, pay attention in your mind. Make it a workout in your mind.
And if you slow the body movement right down, you use the muscles in a whole new, different way.
Yeah, and the feedback, they're like, oh my gosh, man, I couldn't believe it the other day. When I got home, I was actually sore. I went, because you used your body in a different efficiency with a workout mindset. There's lots of different, and Holly pointed out, how do you pronounce that, Holly? As she looks for the microphone. The
I want to
Agoscu,
thank you for all your suggestions. Like I said, you reminded me of things that I had forgotten, like from the distant past, isometrics and things like that. Great suggestions all, and I appreciate it.
cool. Well, unfortunately, time is an illusion. If you want to stretch time, do a plank. If you wanted to watch time fly by like that, join us on Triple T. 2 hours goes by in the blink of an eye. Here we are, 2 hours gone. Thank you guys again so much. 182 in a row. Couldn't do it without you guys. So please understand how much I appreciate you guys giving up your precious commodity of time for this platform. For those of you out in YouTube land, love you, Mom. And do all the YouTube stuff for me, please. Leave some comments. Share this with other people. And hope to see your beautiful smiling faces back here in 7 days. Go out and live life to its fullest. Love you all. See you soon. Bye.
Thanks, TJ.
One question and one topic and 2 questions, TJ. That was it.
Never ceases to amaze me. This is awesome.